tonight. Not set up, not ready, not whatever. As you might can tell, I just got back from a run. So, time got away from me. Thank you, son. Tuesday Night Live. So, anyways, what's been going on? I got a new toy yesterday, and toy. I call tools toys. Anyways, got a brand new toy. Can anybody guess what it is? So last week, or I don't remember when it was, my table saw broke down. And, I'd kind of wondered, the dial that raises the blade and lowers the blade, whenever you'd crank it, it'd clunk, clunk, make some noise. Well, it finally gave up the ghost. And I was raising my blade up, and the next thing I know, the saw fell down, and that was it. So, anyways, I took my saw apart and found the culprit, and it was a broken worm gear. Oh, I forgot my microphone. Hey, over there on the Milwaukee, I'll just go get it. I think it'll work to plug it in after the fact. We'll find out. So anyways, took the table saw apart and found that there was a broken piece. Find the receiver. We can hear you fine. Okay. Well, anyways, I took apart my table saw and found that there was a plastic worm drive piece broken in there. And so then I went to look and see where I could get the part. I couldn't find the part anywhere online. And then I found it on Amazon EU, and it wouldn't let me see it or buy it from there. So then the next thing I found was a 3D print file for the part. And so that intrigued me. And let's see. I was going to have a friend of mine print it and send it to me, but shipping on one small part, $5, $6, $7 these days. And anyways, I was like, you know what? I'm going to find somebody local who's got a 3D printer and, maybe work, have them print it for me and meet somebody new and yada, yada, yada. So anyways, I get on Marketplace, find a guy local, say, hey, I'd like to get this file. And he's like, well, small parts are $10 and, be $5 for filament or something like that. And I'm like, that sounds good. I'm like, how much for two? And so then, next thing I know, he comes back with a quote for like $47. And I just told him, I was like, I says, why is it so much, He's like, oh, that's for two. And I'm like, well, still, even 15 times 2 is 30. And I think what he did was he found the part on eBay, and it was $50. And so he's like, well, this part's worth $50, so I'll sell it for $50, but whatever. Anyhow, I was like, well, I only want one. How soon can you have it? And he was like, oh, maybe tomorrow afternoon. And I was like, I want it now. No, I wanted it. And, but anyways, just it didn't sit well with me, like not paying. Then he came back and said for the one, what it was going to be like $24, 23 something. And I was like, I'm not paying $23 for a part. Literally, like, I know that the machine, you got to pay for the machine. You got whatever, but literally it's like less than $1 for the filament and whatever. So anyways, I'd been contemplating getting a 3D printer for some time, but I couldn't really justify it. And I know people say, oh, you have one, you'll use it and yada, yada. But I can make a lot of things with the tools that I already have. And a lot of times I can make them faster. And they're going to be out of more better material. You like that, more better? Um, Plastic is plastic, and it's got its side effects. But anyways, it's not the most ideal material. I like wood. I like natural stuff. But anyways, so I got my 3D printer. I printed up some scales for a Genesis. I printed up the part for my table saw, and I don't have my stuff. So the printer has been burned since I got it going. So it's printing something right now. In fact, it actually probably just finished up. I was going to start another print, but here I am with you guys. So anyways, fixed my table saw. My table saw is working. The part worked flawlessly. It took an hour and a half to print that part. Over an hour and a half. And realistically, I probably could have made the part in about the same amount of time out of something other than plastic. However, this part not only had a hole through it, but it had a hexagonal hole for like, and I'm not even really sure why. It didn't need that. You know, it probably has that for a different saw, but my saw has a big flat washer and that the piece sets up against. So there's no place for a nut there to go into that slot. I should have just made it myself. So, Papa Pepper, what is Abundant Harvest Homestead, whatever. He's got a video where, what was it? Oh, he made a part for his impact driver. Took a piece of steel and an angle grinder, ground it down and made it fit into his impact driver. And it's stuff like that. Like, if you have tools and you're resourceful, you can make a lot of things without expensive tools. You know, if you've ever visited a prison, which I have, not because I was in there, but my father used to be a correctional officer. So you get, and sometimes those prisons will have like museums or whatever, where they'll show like things that prisoners have made that they've confiscated. And it's crazy what prisoners can make in a prison with limited tools. So, anyways, I say all that to say, skills, not tools, something I preach. Learn how to use what you got, make what you need. And, but anyways, now I got another toy to play with, and I'm sure I'm going to be printing all sorts of stuff. Yeah, the opportunities are endless, and it's so simple nowadays. The early 3D printers, they're really finicky. There's just things you had to learn G code and different things. Now you don't really need to know anything. You can buy a 3D printer, just get free files. There are so many files that you can get to just print things. It's crazy. So it's wild. What else? What else? Oh, I didn't get a lot done this week. I mean, I got a lot done, but not knife-related stuff. Table saw was broken down. Had to make a trip, one-day trip. And then here, my 3D printer actually came in. Today's Tuesday, right? Yeah. My 3D printer actually came in yesterday. And I got it set up, ready to go. It didn't come with any filament. And the filament that I ordered with it didn't show up till today. So, anyways... today, I've been playing with the 3D printer. Like I said, just got back from a run. And, earlier this week, I went and picked up flooring for my house, and I think I'm going to put some up here. Some nice hickory flooring. I've been waiting for them to cut it for like the last 7 months. I've been pestering them. Hey, you got a hickory? No. They don't cut it very often. I guess it's not real popular. It's hard on the equipment. and it was like pulling teeth to get them to cut some. But I called here. They actually cut some and never called me. I wasn't too pleased about that, but whatever. Their operation is really cool. They had a fire. It was Roberts Hardwood Flooring, and they're over in Mountain View. Excuse me. They had a fire in their facility, and so they rebuilt their facility, and it's all like brand new in the last year or two, I believe. And it's quite the operation. Their machine, it's huge. Probably like 150, 200 foot building. Big building. So that was kind of cool to go see. Well, that's just the building that houses the machine that tongue and grooves the boards and does all that kind of stuff. Haven't caught your live stream in a month. Hey Scott, how's it going? Glad you made it. I don't know how long you've been on here, but I got a 3D printer. Been playing with it. Yeah. So I went and picked up, had to make 2 trips, which is good, good trip there and back, especially load it down. Probably about 6,000-7,000 pounds each trip of flooring. So I don't have a big Super Duty truck or anything. I pull it with my 15 passenger van. So it's probably exceeds the towing capacity of that van, but we made her home. Living the dream. I just now popped in. Yeah. So I wasn't real prepared tonight. Busy day got away from me. Just got back from a run. I'm all nasty, ready for a shower. Ready to eat some dinner. So picked up some flooring, got my table saw fixed. I'm looking forward to designing some stuff that I've had in mind for a while, and then printing out some prototypes with the 3D printer. So that's going to be fun. So tell me this, if you had a 3D printer, what would you print? Do you have any ideas of how you would use one? So I thought I had a Genesis. I thought I had a Genesis around here, but I printed these handles. It's really kind of funny because this design, or this file, I took straight off of the file that I use for cutting my knives. Yeah, we might be printing some of those. And then, anyways, I guess some of the frustration of when you print stuff or things, this fits the knife great. However, I sent this file off to be 3D printed from another manufacturer, and the pieces that came back in didn't fit. So, there's tolerances with different machines. I don't know. I was going to see about having some handles CNC'd or 3D printed out of different material than typical 3D printers use. I still may. I didn't really care for the material, even though it would be durable for a handle. I'm probably going to look at some carbon fiber and some different other filaments for handle materials, because I don't hate the idea of 3D printing, especially, I think I don't know. We'll see. I'm thinking about trying to figure out too, I might not have these holes in it. And I was thinking about having some sort of male and female ball and socket that would just snap together. That way I don't have any hardware. Because, everything comes down to cost. Kind of like my table saw breaking, right? Ideally, on that worm drive gear, they would have cast it out of metal or made it something solid that wouldn't break and last for hundreds of years. But the real Bill Davis used to make and design knives for companies that would then take his knives, design them, take his knife designs, and then move them into mass production. And the way they would do that is they would take his designs and they would make them to where it made sense to mass produce them. And what that means is, it means sometimes lowering the quality, but mainly lowering the cost inputs. So depending on like what type of steel you use, what type of liners, the big companies are really good at knowing how to make something affordable in mass production. So like with my table saw example, if they made that part out of a cast or steel piece, the cost of that one part on the table saw alone, which has hundreds of parts, would be astronomical. And they couldn't sell that saw for $800 or whatever they sell it for. They would have to sell it for like 10 times as much. So just like with my handles that I put on the Genesis with the wood handles and stuff, my machining time, material cost, the hardware, it just makes it to where I can't sell it at a decent price for, the general public. Where if I had some 3D printed handles that were out of a good material, it could be a lot more cost effective and still be a good add-on. So anyways, part of why I didn't want a 3D printer or didn't really care to have a 3D printer was, especially the earlier one, some of the print quality wasn't great. Thank you. And print quality wasn't great. And, a lot of people I see, and they're making money with it, but a lot of people they're just making toys. They're making trash. They're making things that people really don't need. But kind of going back to fixing the table saw is when you have one and you can fix something. So like if I had to buy the part off of eBay and pay almost $50 for that part, I just saved $50. Not only that, if I could have the part in 2 hours versus waiting 3 days or a week or whatever it takes to get from eBay, that has value in itself too. So anyways, these I printed up. There is nice clearance all the way around the handle. The only problem is when you print something, they had to they make, what is it called? Basically supports, because it printed sitting like this, and I needed to support these higher spots. Because when I made these handles, they're cut out to fit into the cutouts of the handles. So like they're not moving. They can't move up, down, left, right, anywhere. So they make all these supports, and then you break those supports off. Well, it didn't break off very well. There's probably some settings that I didn't have set right. There's probably better ways to do it, but anyways, there you go. How have the knife sales been? Good. I sent out several today. Yeah. Could always be better. Could always be selling lots of knives every day. So, yeah. So now my table saw is fixed. Looking forward to getting back on the ceiling, getting that fixed. I think the homemade Wanderlust XHP is the Genesis, isn't it? Yes. I used to make all the Genesis out of XHP. XHP became harder to get, and I switched up to MagnaCut. It's the same knife, same design. I've made the Genesis out of XHP, MagnaCut, and N3690. So I've made the Genesis out of 3 different steels. XHP and MagnaCut being the steels of choice. in 3690, kind of because I was wanting to have a lower priced Genesis available for some. So hold on a sec. You got an intermission for me, son? Man, my allergies. A lot of people have been struggling with allergies this year. I guess the pollen is going. So, anyways, thanks for tuning in. Looking forward to playing around with my new toy and getting some knives done. I didn't get my knives finished up this week that I wanted to, but hopefully this week. So that's that. We're supposed to get a bunch of rain later this week. I'm glad that the weather's warmer. And as far as, Scott, you were saying, the best knife I've ever had for EDC. Thanks, Scott. I kind of think so. I carry one, although I'm working on a new knife for me. I need to finish it. Yeah, I like wood handles. They're hard to beat. The other thing I'm going to be probably printing up is a lot of storage stuff. Actually, I was kind of having the kids sort some tools and try to get some of my sets back together. I've got some wrenches there, sockets there. I always hate the low quality cases. That actually case wasn't too bad, but you know, I've got all these different tool boxes and it's hard to keep tools together. So I'm trying to print up some organizational stuff, try to keep things better organized. So that's where I am looking forward to. You know, I don't know. There's times it's like 3D printing's good, but you got Kaizen foam, you've got all sorts of different things you can do for organization. So it's that's the struggle for me. Is it's very easy to, when you have a tool, to gravitate towards using it when there might be better processes out there. So really trying to stop and say, well, you know, these are the tools that I have at my disposal. What tool is going to do the best? Because I have I got a CO2 laser too for cutting wood or engraving stuff. And there's just lots of tools to my disposal to 3D print everything. But I do think it will come in handy. So anyways, thanks for tuning in. I like catching you guys up on what's going on around the farm and homestead. I sent your wife a listing to yeah, she seen that loom. She wanted to get it. A little bit of a drive for us. I wonder, did that thing already sell? That was a nice, very nice loom. So many things. We need so many good deals to be had if you're out there looking. So anyways, you guys have a good night. I'm going to eat some dinner, and we'll see you next week. This has been Patrick with MT Knives. Stay sharp.